right, I'm very excited today because we've got the kits for the Extreme X-Men. So there's 3 new characters, going to be Nightcrawler, Sunspot, and Forge. Reworks to Gambit and Cyclops. They got meaningful upgrades, in my opinion. They're going to be more plug and play. We're going to see if Cyclops is going to get the Scarlet Witch treatment. Maybe, not 100% sure. Other thing too, there is some discrepancies between the information that was provided inside of the Strike Time video on Cyclops kit and the PDF file that I have, and what I heard in a dev call and what's actually showing up in the test server. So everything in this video is on the test server, subject to change. So we'll just have to see how it plays out. Now, Nightcrawler has 120 speed, and he will be going first. And I just want to give the speeds on the characters. Nightcrawler is 120, should be going first. Sunspot is 113. Then Cyclops is 108. And Gambit is 107. Forge is relatively slow at 98 speed. But there's a couple different ways for him to get turn meter. One from Cyclops in particular. So we'll talk about that, but Forge seems pretty slow. Now, let's get into Nightcrawler, and I do think Raider is going to be the best, and the passive will explain why I think Raider is going to be the best on Nightcrawler. On spawn, gain speed up and 2 charged. Keep the charge in mind because the charge is going to be important on Nightcrawler special. Apply evade to self and all X-Men allies. Evade is going to be useful because there's a part in his passive that he gets health whenever he dodges. And then I just want to point out, whenever we're going through this, there's going to be many times where there's non-team specific boosts. Like it just says allies, or it says X-Men allies instead of saying Extreme X-Men allies. I feel like this is great, and we'll go over it because they're making an accommodations for X-Men, and a lot of the kits just say X-Men. So it's kind of going to feel like what they did with Sinister Six and Superior Six. This is great. In raids, fill speed bar by 25% for self and all Extreme X-Men allies. So that's just a raid specific boost. On turn, flip 2 negative effects on self into positive effects. I think Human Torch has a mechanic very similar to that. On crit, fill speed bar by 10% for self and all Extreme X-Men allies. This is why I think that Raider is going to be the best on him for sure. And also, he goes first. So if he's Striker, what is he going to be using the Striker for? So I think that Raider is a no-brainer. And hopefully this will give them an additional turn meter whenever he's critting. On dodge, heal this character for 10% of this character's max health. So that's where the evasions come into play. When this character drops below 30% health for the first time, do the following to this character. Clear 3 negative effects and gain 3 evades. That dodge mechanic again. Heal and bury the character for 30% of this character's max health. And then fill speed bar by 30%. So that's a mechanic that we've been seeing on better characters, you know, like Doom and Apocalypse and so on. The speed of this character and each ally can only be reduced by slow. And so this is mentioned in Apocalypse kit also. And currently in the game, this only affects Emma. So this has nothing to do with turn meter rewind like on Icarus and Cersei. This is the speed of the character. When you read Emma's kit, Emma is reducing like the opposing enemies, 10%? That is what this is referring to. So this is very specifically an anti-Emma mechanic. Gain 60% max health. X-Men's get 30%, and Extreme X-Men get an additional 30%. Now, shifting strikes, we're going to get into this. This is very powerful. This 3/3, so it's going to be going off very often. Attack the primary target for piercing, significant amount of damage. Apply stun, bleed, and exposed. Now, what's interesting about Nightcrawler's kit and exposed, like if we look at the other 2 characters that have exposed mechanics, like Vol and Super Skrull, their kits in the passive states what exposed does when it's triggered on the teams that are there when they're enabled on the team. It's a little different on Nightcrawler. So he is the 3rd character to have exposed. And the only other mention to expose in his kit is going to be on his basic attack and we'll get there in just a minute. So maybe we'll have a full exposed team, and maybe pairing up with Super Skrull is going to be a thing. Rebound chain to 3 targets with infinite spaces of the previous target for 230% piercing, applied bleed. So that's pretty cool. Like if there's 2 characters on the map and they're on the opposite sides of each other, he'll bounce and teleport back and forth between the 2, doing a ton of damage. I did go into an arena and I was playing up against like an Apocalypse and 3 Horsemen and King, and I was almost able to one-shot Red Hulk. And in fact, I was able to one-shot Red Hulk with this when he pinged the Red Hulk more than once. Apply evade to the 2 most injured allies. Apply defense up for 2 turns to self and all allies. Gain safeguard for 2 turns. Very powerful. Now, this is why I think that Nightcrawler is going to be a good character for a long time. If charged, and he's going to spawn with 2 charges, fill speed bar for 20% to self and all X-Men allies. It doesn't say Extreme X-Men, it says X-Men allies. Then more importantly, fill speed bar by 20% for the non-X-Men ally with the highest damage. I just think that this type of mechanic is going to be very important long term. Anytime that you can have any kind of turn meter manipulation or speed bar manipulation in a turn-based game like Marvel Strike Force, it's going to be very impactful long term. And I think there's going to be cool combos that we can do with this, specifically in Cosmic Crucible. Then in raids, fill speed bar by an additional 20% for self and all Extreme X-Men, and then lose a charge. And there's going to be additional ways of getting charge when we get to some of the other kits. This attack cannot be counterattacked. Now let's look at Shadow Barrage, which is his ultimate. Attack all enemies for 500% piercing and do the following to all enemies: clear all positive effects, apply slow up to a maximum of 3, apply vulnerable up to a maximum of 5. So that's kind of cool. What we got that kind of in, they started doing that with like Cloak and Daggers kit. Clear all charge on the primary target. I think that reminds me of like something that Silver Surfer could do. Very cool. Apply 1 speed up to self and all X-Men allies up to a maximum 3. Prolong the duration of all positive effects on self and all allies by 1 up to a maximum of 3. So that means that he's might have some plug and play opportunities right there with that. Attack gains extra focus, is unavoidable and cannot be blocked or counterattacked. Now we're going to get into the basic. Basic does multiple attacks. I think this would be very effective against Black Cat. Curious to see how this plays out. Attack primary target for piercing and flip 1 positive effect into a negative effect, and then do that 3 more times. So if we think about like what Quicksilver hits a bunch of times with the basic and how that's good against Black Cat, I think this will be good against Black Cat. And plus flip 1 positive effect into a negative effect. Then in raids, if this character has 3 more X-Men allies, on the last bonus attack, apply ability block to the primary target. And this is where it gets interesting to me. On crit, gain 1 regeneration for each other crit from this ability. Prolong the duration of that regeneration by 1. And then this attack gains 100% crit chance against target with exposed. So that's the only other mention of exposed on the Nightcrawler kit. Let's go to Gambit. And they did make Gambit more plug and play. And they did remove a lot of the Crucible mentions in his kit. And now a lot of his abilities that were Crucible specific just works everywhere now. So he got modest stat increases. These are not huge. Actually, Cyclops got a lot of better stat increases. Health stat 30, 10% damage, armor 5, focus and resist. I mean, he's a newer character, right? He just barely came out, like a year ago. So he's a newer character. Let's go into the passive and take a look at that. And on spawn, gain 2 charged. So this was worded differently before. Like this only happened in Crucible. Like he would get 1 charge normally, and then he would get a 2nd charge in Crucible. Well, now he's going to have 2 charge, which is going to impact his ability to do ability block on his special. And some other things as well. At the end of any enemy turn, this is the ping. Attack the most injured non-summon enemy, ignoring taunt and stealth. Before it just said taunt, now it says taunt and stealth for 100% pierce, 180% piercing, apply, heal block. Fantastic. Now, this was a Crucible only mechanic before. Now they added the raid tag, and Crucible and raids fill speed bar by 20% for this character. And then this is largely the same. When this character or any other rogue drops below 50% max health for the first time, apply stealth for 2 turns, immunity for 1 turn on that character, clear all defense down on the character. While this character gain 50% drain on crit, apply evade to self, all unlimited X-Men and extreme X-Men allied. So that was added. That's a new tag. While this character has evade, gain 25% crit chance and 25% crit damage, unlimited and extreme X-Men allies gain 25% crit chance and crit damage. Now, they're going to get evade at the start of the battle from Nightcrawler's passive, so that's good. Gain 50% max health. X-Men allies gain 25% max health, and then unlimited X-Men gain an additional 25% max health. Now, this is where it gets interesting, is right here. This is largely the same, but right here, apply speed up for 2 turns to self and all X-Men allies. So that was a very restrictive, I believe it was Crucible only, and it was Uncanny X-Men with a 50% chance. So this means that turn 1 special with Gambit, you know, if your team doesn't have speed up, you're going to want to do the special instead of the basic, just to give speed up to the entire team. I think that's fantastic. And then he's going to have 2 charges now instead of 1 charge, so the ability block will be there longer. And then the ultimate did not have this flip 2 positive effects, 2 negative effects on all enemies. Actually, it had that, but there was was a Crucible only bonus, if I remember correctly. Now, let's get into Cyclops. Cyclops is quite a bit different. They made some bonuses to him, and a lot of them are raid-specific bonuses, and he should be able to put a lot of damage. I know a lot of people are going to be asking if he got the Scarlet Witch treatment. I'm not sure. Kind of feels that way a little bit, but we'll have to see for ourselves when this is live. On self or X-Men ally turn, gain 2 charge up to a maximum 20, but then in raids, he's going to get an additional charge. So he'll be getting like 3 charges anytime somebody takes turns, gain an additional 1 charge. So that's a total of 3 up to a maximum of 40. So like in the strike time video, so I'm doing massive amounts of damage, and that's because he was getting 40 charges pops off, and then he has an additional way from one of the kits. I can't remember if it's Sunspot and Forge, where he can get 10 extra charges whenever they do their ultimate. We'll get into that. On turn, if this character has 20 more charged, gain 2 ability energy. Okay, and this is way better than it was before. When an enemy attacks an ally Phoenix, ally Dark Phoenix, or Extreme X-Men, attack that enemy for 250% damage. So he's going to be pinging them whenever they attack anybody else on the team. Where before it was only Phoenix. This is great. On non-summon X-Men ally death. Before this used to read Phoenix. This is for any X-Men dying. Gain offense up and then fill the speed bar by 100% on Forge. Yes, it still will do Wolverine and Magic, but Forge. And the reason why that's important is Forge has the revive mechanic. So think about like Pegasus team and with rescue. That's what this is going to be. When somebody dies, the passive on Cyclops is going to feed speed bar to Forge, and then Forge's ultimate will have a revive of an extreme X-Men. All of this right here is brand new. Gain 50% focus. In raids, gain additional 50% focus. X-Men allies gain 50% focus. In raids, X-Men allies gain an additional 50% focus. Now, we're just going to go to the get off my lawn, right? Clear revive once from all enemies. That's new. Most notably, damage is increased by 25% per charge. Before that was capped at 20. Now it is going to be 40. So this could be 40 massive amounts of damage. Get off my lawn. Attack kings. 500% extra focus and cannot be blocked. Now, this is going to be the weird part of the video, if you will. To me, there's some confusion on this. In the strike time video, they mentioned a way of in raids where the two members with the highest health would get taunt. Because if we look at the kits on the test server, there's no mention of the Extreme X-Men getting taunt anywhere. There's no like taunter on the team. I feel like this was removed, and in the dev call, they mentioned it was removed, but I'm not really sure. I'm going to read the way the kit reads here, and then I'm going to go to the PDF file, and then we'll compare the differences, and then whatever happens on the live server happens on the live server. So apply taunt to the two most non-injured, non-summon, non-primary targets each, ignoring stealth. Call two random allies to attack one of the previous enemies. That's the same. Attack primary target for damage. And then this is new. Apply defense up and regeneration to three most injured X-Men allies yourself. Apply defense up and deflect to the three highest health Extreme X-Men allies or self. And then this is the part that is we're talking about. In raids, barrier the three most injured X-Men allies or self for 20% of this character's max health. Now, I want to go to the PDF file that they provided for us, and it reads differently. And then they also made reference to this in the strike time video on Cyclops. Right here on the special, it says, in raids, where is it? In raids, apply defense up and taunt to the two highest health Extreme X-Men allies or self. And my understanding is that was removed, and that is not going to be happening in the live build, but we will have to see. Additionally, I wanted to point out these are pretty significant stat boosts. Health 70%, damage 30%, armor 70%, focus 18%, and resist by 66%. There was also a pretty significant upgrade to the basic attack primary target for damage and apply defense down. If this character has one or more X-Men allies, apply slow. So the basic attack now will be defense down and slow. So I'm confident in saying that Striker is going to be optimal for Cyclops, Raider on Gambit, Raider on Nightcrawler, and then we're going to go Striker on Sunspot, and we'll go over why I think Striker is going to be the best one. Now, Sunspot is going to be like the battery for the team. On spawn, apply offense up to self and all X-Men allies. For every charged on this character, generate one ability energy for self in each Extreme X-Men ally up to a maximum of 10. So this is going to be useful in going from node to making sure that your ability energy is maxed out when you go into nodes. In raids, apply offense down for 2 turns to all enemies. On turn, heal self for 3% of this character's max health per charge on this character up to a maximum of 30%. Gain 25% damage and then 5% damage per charge on this character. So let's say he has 10 charge, that's going to be an extra 50% damage. Yikes. Extreme X-Men allies gain 25% damage. If this character has 5 or more charged, this character and all Extreme X-Men allies gain 25% additional damage. And the reason why I think Striker is going to be good is because his basic attack is how he gets charged. In raids, if this character has 3 or more Extreme X-Men allies, enemies cannot gain taunt. This is huge. I did play this on the playtest server, and the Red Guardians and the Shield securities not having taunt was a big deal in raids for sure. Gain an additional 25% damage. Extreme X-Men allies gain an additional 25% damage. I want to go to the basic because the basic is the way that he gets charged. Attack primary adjacent targets for 300% damage. Apply bleed. Apply 1 bleed to primary target per crit, and then gain 1 charge up to a maximum of 10. And you do want to get charges on him. And so I think that Striker's going to be the way to go. So that way that'll trigger if you're using a special or ultimate into a character that has vulnerable. Now, Solar Burst, high cooldowns on this, 10. But there's going to be ways of getting ability energy. He's kind of the battery on the team. For each enemy with charge, gain 1 charge for a maximum of 10. So that's why he's going to get charges also. Attack all energies for quite a bit of damage. Apply offense down for 2 turns and defense down for 2 turns. In raids, apply disrupted and clear 1 charge on each target. Generate 1 ability energy for self and all X-Men allies. In raids, generate an additional 1 ability energy for self and all X-Men allies. His special also has a way of generating ability energy for the team. Apply ability block to the primary target. So this typically goes off turn 1. Attack primary adjacent targets for 420% damage and apply slow. Prolong all negative effects, excluding ability block and stun, on each target up by 2, up to a maximum of 3. In raids, prolong all negative effects on each target by an additional 1, up to a maximum of 3. Generate 1 ability energy for self and all X-Men allies. This attack is unavoidable and cannot be blocked or counterattacked. Generate 1 ability energy. Now, Forge has probably the most interesting kit of them all. He has a way of getting inventions randomly, and he won't show any kind of notification on what invention he has enabled, and it happens randomly. So you actually have to look at the character to understand what parts of his passive has triggered. Relatively slow speed, like I mentioned, 98. On spawn, apply defense up to self and all X-Men allies. On turn, craft a random invention this character doesn't have. There's no notification or icon. You just have to look at the character model. And I played this, but I don't understand it still because it's random. Rifle upgrade. On attack, apply 1 vulnerable. Shoulder cannon. I guess the shoulder cannon shows up, right? And probably pretty easy to see. On X-Men ally turn end, attack the lowest health enemy for 200% piercing. So a ping mechanic. Targeting reticle. Gain 25% crit chance for self and all X-Men allies. So, I mean, I guess after he's gone 3 times, then I have all 3 of them turned on. But you're just going to have to be mindful and look at the character models. I played him a little bit already, and I'm not able to show that footage yet. And I wasn't able to figure it out in the time that I have played it. On any turn, heal the most injured X-Men ally for 5% of this character's max health. When this character or any X-Men ally drops below 50% health, and this is important because, like I mentioned, he's relatively slow. Barrier all X-Men allies for 10% of this character's max health. Fill speed bar for this character by 15%. And the other way that he can get Terminator is from Cyclops passive, where when an X-Men dies, he will get, well, it depends if you have Magic or Wolverine on the team, but if you don't, if you just have Forge, he's going to get 100% Terminator. Gain 30% armor and resistance for self and X-Men allies. In raids, gain an additional 60% armor and 60% resistance for self and extreme X-Men allies. So why that Terminator is important is because his ultimate has a lot of cool things, but one of them is a revive. Attack primary and adjacent targets for damage, piercing, and clear all positive effects. Clear all negative effects from self and all X-Men allies, which is amazing provided you don't have trauma. Heal self and all X-Men allies for 30% of this character's max health. And I do think healer is going to be the best on him. I don't think it's going to be Striker. Prolong the duration of all positive effects on X-Men allies by 1 up to a maximum of 2. Apply, counter, deathproof, and deflect to self and all X-Men allies. Again, it says X-Men. It's not saying extreme X-Men. In raids, apply evade and safeguard to self and all extreme X-Men allies. Apply 1 charge up to a maximum of 10 to self and all X-Men allies. That's going to be useful. Like, for sure, Nightcrawler will be able to use the charge because on his special is where he's giving Terminator the team, provided that he does have charge. Interestingly, apply 10 charge up to a maximum of 40 to Cyclops. Wow. And here's the revive mechanic. Revive 1 extreme X-Men ally with 100% health. If there's no extreme X-Men allies to revive, gain 3 ability energy. Boot and shoot. This is going to go off more frequently. I didn't find this to be nearly as impactful as the ultimate. I mean, it's a special, so one would figure. Attack primary target for damage. Copy 1 positive effect, including Tom, then chain and do the same thing. Then it kind of has like a Nick Fury thing. Spread all positive effects on self, excluding taunt, to all X-Men allies. Clear heal block from self. And I like the turn order on this where it clears heal block and then it heals. Fantastic. If charged, apply immunity to self and all X-Men allies, then lose charge. Basic is interesting enough, and I know there was some debate on using Striker on him or not. I'm going to be using healer. Attack primary target for damage. Apply, deflect, and regeneration to self and all X-Men allies. Maybe Striker would be better on him, but what I'm going to try when I first get these characters unlocked, I'm going to do Raider, on Gambit and Nightcrawler, and the other two, Cyclops and Sunspot, will be Striker, and then Forge will be Healer, and I think that'll be worked out just fine. Let me know what you think about this kit. Are you excited about Nightcrawler? I'm kind of excited. I'm excited mostly about this part of his kit, you know, in a plug and play situation. And also he has like an anti-Emma mechanic. We'll have to see, you know, how Cyclops works out. Is he going to be replaced by Apocalypse? We will see. How is this special going to work? We will see. Let me know in the comment section as always. Thanks for watching and keep on gaming. Bye for now.